Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're cutting straight through the noise to examine one of the absolute most pivotal moments in human history, the start of World War II. We're going to break down the specific triggers, the primary nations involved, and the sheer massive scale of a conflict that literally redrew the map of the world. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First up, a massive global conflict. Second, the 1939 catalyst. Third, how Britain and France react. And finally, the broader historical context.
Starting off with Section 1, a massive global conflict and the true scale of the war.
30. Just pause and really think about that number for a second. That is the staggering number of countries that were ultimately pulled into this conflict. We're not talking about some localized border dispute here. This was a total planetary entanglement. More than 30 distinct nations, with all their own governments, economies, and everyday people, were drawn into this singular massive vortex. Establishing this immediate scale is absolutely crucial, because when we look at exactly how the war started, we always have to keep in mind the monster it eventually became.
So you might be wondering, what actually happened? Which specific countries kicked off this whole planetary entanglement? I mean, it's one thing to know 30 countries were involved, right? But it's another entirely to understand the mechanics of how that actually happened. To do that, we kind of have to pivot our focus away from that macro global scale and zoom all the way down to a single specific historical catalyst. That brings us to Section 2, the 1939 catalyst and the spark in Poland.
In 1939, Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, invaded Poland. Now, it's a very straightforward historical fact, sure, but it represents the definitive point of no return. This wasn't just some standard military maneuver. This was the specific, undeniable aggression where global tension finally just snapped. This single event forced the hand of the international community and ignited literally everything that followed.
Now, even though over 30 countries would eventually join the fight, the initial outbreak was centered on just 4 core nations. You have Nazi Germany and Poland representing that initial invasion, while Great Britain and France stood as the immediate international respondents. Isolating these 4 really helps cut through the noise of the broader war, focusing our attention on the exact political dynamic that existed in that critical 1939 window.
Moving on to Section 3, Britain and France react, and the domino effect.
What happens next is a textbook direct cause and effect reaction. Step 1, the aggression, Nazi Germany invades Poland. Step 2, the consequence, Great Britain and France declare war on Germany. It's a perfect and terrifying example of how diplomatic alliances and international treaties work in practice. The world didn't gradually fade into conflict. It was a definitive, structured escalation where one single border invasion instantly triggered massive multinational war declarations.
The contrast here is honestly staggering. You've got this single invasion in 1939 acting as the catalyst, and the consequence is over 30 countries being pulled into a global conflict. That massive, unbelievable gap between the initial localized spark and the worldwide fallout, that is exactly where the devastating history of World War II lives. It really goes to show just how rapidly a military action can metastasize into a worldwide emergency when the right geopolitical conditions are met.
Which leads us to Section 4, the broader historical context, from World War I to Hiroshima.
Because look, this 1939 catalyst absolutely didn't happen in a vacuum. Its roots stretch way back to 1918 and the unresolved issues of World War I. Tensions basically simmered and deteriorated through that crucial interwar period, ultimately boiling over with the 1939 Poland invasion. And of course, the timeline doesn't stop there, right? The era ended with monumental, world-altering tragedies spanning from the fall of the Third Reich all the way to the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Understanding this wider timeline proves that the 1939 spark was really just the catastrophic middle chapter of a much larger 20th century story.
Now, as we unpack these incredibly heavy historical events, I think it's super important to ground ourselves in why we study them in the first place. The creators of our source material state their goal perfectly, saying, "This video is made solely with the purpose of spreading awareness and educating the viewers." And we share that exact impartial goal for this explainer. We are not here to editorialize, we're just here to understand the mechanics of history. By breaking down the raw facts, we gain a much clearer awareness of how the world we live in today was shaped by the shadows of 1939.
Which leaves us with a final, really vital question to chew on. If a single, localized event in 1939 could spark a domino effect involving over 30 nations, what broader historical pattern should we be paying attention to today? Because history isn't just a boring list of dates and invasions, it is a literal blueprint of cause and effect. Understanding the explosive nature of that 1939 catalyst empowers all of us to look at our modern world with a sharper, much more educated perspective. I really hope this explainer has given you a crystal clear understanding of exactly how World War II began, and hopefully leaves you eager to continue exploring history on your own. Thank you so much for learning with me today.